big metal fan, but I haven't been like I haven't explored too much, but big fan of power metal and death metal and a bunch of different metals.
Oh, nice. I did not know this about you, Willie. We have much to talk about.
Oh yeah, for sure.
What a
All
great
right, we
way to
should.
kick off today's meeting.
Sorry.
Yeah, that was beautifully timed. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning. Today is June 8th, Thursday, June 8th. We are the cluster API provider Azure, in parentheses CAPC community, doing our weekly meeting thing. CAPC is part of Cluster API, which is a subproject of SIG Cluster Lifecycle. We abide by the CNCF Code of Conduct, so please be kind to one another. Use the raise hand feature in Zoom to speak. We welcome all voices. And without further ado, I will flail around and attempt to share my screen. So actually, before I share my screen, I'm going to pull up the agenda doc, which Matt's reminder in Slack super conveniently makes it easy to get at every time. All right, let's see here. I think that's it. So if I'm not sharing the CAPC agenda doc, please feel free to interrupt me. Okay, the first thing we do during our weekly meetings is leave time for folks to say hi, and especially if you're new, to introduce yourself. So I'll pause for a second. I don't think I see anybody new, but I'll still pause and adhere to that custom. So raise hands if you want to say hi. Okay, I'll say hi anyway. Hi, everybody that I already am super familiar with. Great to see everyone. Let's go straight to the agenda. All right, so we'll do milestone review at the end. And we've got a couple of agenda items. Feel free to add these in real time if you have something you'd like to talk about and it's not there already. But we'll start with Cecile, who wants to talk about lots of camel case things. Go ahead, Cecile.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring this issue to our attention because it's been in the issue queue for a bit and I don't think we've really done anything with it, but Dane is reporting some issues with user-side identity starting in CAB 019. And I think, Matt, I wanted to bring especially this to your attention because I think it might be related to some of the parse resource ID changes with changing from Odorrest, since Odorrest got deprecated, to the ARM Azure SDK v2. So yeah, just wanted to bring this up and ask if anybody had seen this or had any ideas.
Go ahead, Matt.
I think you were first, weren't you?
I wasn't paying attention to that. I was going to ask the question, sort of like theoretical question. So let's assume that, Cecile, what you're saying is the right investigative path. And for example, the new SDK version yields a new provider ID string format. I would imagine that that could still work in the sense that what I'm trying to say is this, I assume this is broken for Dane. That's the reason why this issue is created. Like once he upgraded to 1.9, he's not able to do anything on Cluster because
Yeah, it sounds like it was a breaking change. Like he's able to get it to work by using the new format, but the old format doesn't work anymore, is what I'm
oh,
reading.
oh, I see. So okay, so the theory is that maybe SDK v2 brings a new format, but when we implemented the adoption of the v2, we failed to implement a sort of like conversion from old to new, so that existing clusters would something that would essentially detect like, oh, you're using the old provider ID, but we're now pinned to a new backend which doesn't recognize that format. We need to convert that. Go ahead, Matt.
It actually doesn't have directly to do with SDK v2. This was me getting out ahead of the changes we would of Go auto rest functions that we were using that were independent of that. And I think probably Dane is correct. I just, missed some case here or wrote a deficient replacement function. Although almost all the places, probably almost all the places I've seen this identifier used, we sort of check to see if it's got the Azure : / prefix. And so we try to be tolerant of either version. But I agree, this is probably not backward compatible. So if you want to just assign it to me, it seems like something I should fix.
Well, I was going to give you two choices, that or a volunteer to assign it to you, and then maybe you could time box pair with them and hand it off. If you're, in the case that you're not working on anything else that's competing with your priority, you should totally do it. But if you are working on other things, that's also an option.
I mean, I have a few things I'm working on, but this doesn't sound like it's going to be super time consuming. If someone else is interested in looking at what's probably a string parsing exercise, that'd be cool. But otherwise, I'll try and take a look at it today.
And I think either way, we should add this to the milestone as well.
Yeah,
Great.
good call.
Paying it forward, saving ourselves a little milestone. Work 4 minutes from now. Go ahead, Cecile.
Sorry, should have raised my hand. Another also kind of slightly related tangent is I don't know if there's a better way we can do bug triage, or like at least make sure we're staying on top of the issue queue collectively, because I think when I saw this one, it had been open for like almost a week, and there are a few others open in the queue for 2 weeks that hadn't been looked at or didn't look like they had been looked at. And so I wonder how we can incorporate this, like looking at new bugs that were open, maybe as part of our milestone triage or something that we're already doing, so that this doesn't go unnoticed, this kind of stuff. So yeah, just wanted to bring this up in case anyone has ideas or suggestions.
First question is, are there any existing community roles that we can fold this into? That would be appropriate. Go ahead, Willie.
I'm thinking maybe there could be a way to like automate just like grabbing like a list of open issues that aren't assigned and maybe posting it in Slack, or maybe once a week we have like a dedicated bug list that's kind of like a dedicated topic during CABC office hours, just to go over the bugs, just like how we do milestone reviews. So I don't know, just throwing some ideas.
Nawaz?
At the CAPI side, we have got a community role, which says bug triage team. So one of the bug triage members takes a look at the issues. So maybe we could do something on our side where one among the maintainers we could rotate on triaging that issue for that week.
Cool. So what is the membership of the community role? How does that get filled? Is it just maintainers of the project, or is it other volunteers?
There are volunteers. There are volunteers, non-maintainers. They rotate it among themselves. So we could also come up with something like that.
Okay. I like that. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, kind of extra tangentially related. I've been noticing lately that both as someone looking for reviews on PRs and looking to review PRs, it's been a little difficult to figure out like if a PR already has enough reviewers or not, based on at least for me, I've mostly been looking at assignees. So like if a PR doesn't have any assignees, then I'm not sure who's going to be reviewing that PR. so it makes it a little hard to jump in as a new reviewer. And it also makes me unsure as someone looking for a review on their PR when or who I can bug for reviews on that PR. So yeah, I don't know how closely related that is, but that's also something I've been seeing lately.
Cool. I'll try to put that in English async. I think that's a separate thing. Let's talk about that after this, actually, if that's okay with folks. I think these are ideas are all good, and they're actually not. It's not a mutually exclusive set of ideas. I think. I mean, I think we can do all these. Who wants to own Slack reminder? Let's do that. That sounds great. So I shouldn't say Slack reminder. How about Slack bot? So I feel like the reason not to do this would be pollution of the existing sort of human outcomes of a Slack channel. So like now we've got like people creating their own issues and all that kind or threads and all that kind of thing. So if we have a bot that's spamming that, it can like you know, degrade the existing vibes. Do we feel like that's something that might happen? Go ahead, Willie.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe once a week at most, because I feel like that would be too much. That would like, yeah, pollute the channel. But then at the same time, I don't know if we want the responsiveness to these issues to be faster than once a week. So I'm not sure. Maybe some others can provide their input. I'd be happy to work on this though. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that that's probably going to have the outcome, the not desirable outcome that you just listed. At least that's my vote. I think I'm going to add this here. I think we could try to just set up a bot that puts an issue into Slack every time there's a new issue. And see how disruptive that is. I don't think we have so many issues that that's going to change the existing Slack channel culture experience. Go ahead, Cecile.
If it does get too noisy, we can also like there's already a convention established in Kate Slack for having I think it's dash notifications or something like that channel. So it's a separate Slack channel that we can all like register or subscribe to that's made just for like automated messages, not messages from humans. So that's also an option. Another option is to do like an aggregated thing once per week. I think like Willie suggested.
Cool. I think these are all good ideas. Do we want to take a quick vote or do we want to create, how about this? I will create an issue, or Willie, can you create an issue?
Yeah.
Let's create an issue and vote for next steps.
Yeah, I can create the.
I kind of know where I will vote, but let's not do that here where we're not including the entire community. But great idea. I think this will help. I think there's a way to use a Slack bot to improve this. So awesome. Go ahead, Cecile.
Yeah, and sorry to extend this. If we want to move on, we can also continue on the issue. But I think the Slack bot is great. I don't think that necessarily excludes also doing a community role. I think that's still a good idea. I just thinking of how like releases work right now. We have this Slack bot for patch releases, and I think that has helped us. But I think it's always easier when there's clear ownership defined and like a rotation of responsibility, because that helps, include more people who otherwise wouldn't have been able to get involved, and helps like spread the knowledge to more folks in the community. So I think we should also consider doing something like that.
So where is the overlap between this type of role in CAPI and the release role? Is release a duty of the community role at present?
Yep.
Cool. Yeah. Nawaz, can you create an issue for this?
Yep, I can.
I totally 100% agree that we can do all these things. Let's create an issue and vote for next steps.
Also, just thinking about this, I think it'd be a great idea to announce this in CAPI meeting as well. Once we establish this and be like, hey, we are having open community roles. If someone wants to join CAPSI volunteer thing, I think that'll attract more people because there's a good, healthy amount of interest over there.
100%. I'm gonna just add one thought. So like Slack room monitor. I don't know. I think that a community role, it would be great if we had someone dedicated to answering questions on Slack and the CAPSI channel. I think that we generally do a decent job, but there are times when it'll be a day or two before someone gets a response. So if you have someone whose job is to do that, I think that would be great. Issue monitor release. I don't know. The release is more, to me, that's more interesting because that comes less frequently and it's sort of more focused and it can take hours of your time. So, but I think that would be great to discuss that in the issue. And any more thoughts on that? Cool. I think this one, I'm comfortable with pulling this room and just adding this now, because I think this would be likely to be non-controversial and super
Which
easy
one,
to,
sorry?
just for example, if we were to add, let's go to the template. If I were to add a new thing here with a link to issues that just said issue triage. So we could do a community issue triage, or are we thinking that that's inclusive of the milestone review already? I think the milestone review it's sort of open to the sort of approach of whoever's hosting. So it's not exactly scientific. Yeah, go ahead, Cecile. Turn those head gestures into words. No?
Sorry. Yeah, I think it's good early in the milestone when we don't really have everything in there. But as we get later in the milestone, I think we tend to spend more time on what's already in the milestone. And sometimes we spent 20 plus minutes doing milestone review. So I could see adding also issue triage on top of that, just making the whole office hours either too long or just not leaving enough time for discussion or so maybe it should be one or the other, or maybe make it time boxed, both of them, just so that we don't run over each time.
That is my proposal, is that we do a quick issue review to look for a few issues at the very top of the queue that haven't been responded to. And then after that, which should be quick most weeks, and then after that, we do milestone review. Is that something that should require more consensus other than just me declaring a proposal? Go ahead, David T.
Yeah, I mean, I think that we should not try and define it too strictly right now and be a little flexible, because I feel like there'll be some points where we need to probably focus more on issues, sometimes more PRs, and milestone review obviously gets more important probably as we get closer to the milestone a little bit, but yeah, you don't want to neglect any of the three technically.
Is this less controversial if I just forked it and didn't declare any particular order or priority?
Yeah, I think it's fine. I don't think because it's first it means it has to be first.
Exactly. I mean, this also this could be is that even less controversial? Something like that?
Sure.
Cool. I think the point is I do, if we are finding ourselves in the situation where an issue hasn't been responded to for a week, then that probably means that we're not only does our kind of ad hoc best effort issue triage not do what we wanted to do, but also it means that we went through an entire office hours without noticing that as well. So I think that we should be doing this during office hours, just even like a sanity check.
Yep. Yeah, and I have,
Okay, cool.
I have some boards already. I have some boards also for the issue stuff, the issue triage. So
Cool.
I'll link those in there.
Okay. Added to milestone review topic line item. Cool, good talk. Any final thoughts? There's a lot of stuff we just talked about kind of all at once before we move on to Ashtosh. All right, Ashtosh, you're up.
Yeah, I was just thinking to start a lazy consensus on the proposal so that we can get to merging the implementation PR. Anish had reviewed it, Cecil had also reviewed it. So I think I've incorporated the comments there. I've also incorporated comments on the proposal PR. So that looks good to me, to move ahead. Also, last week we had, not last week, but I don't know if it was last week, but we did have a walkthrough on that. So would love to see folks chiming in there, and then we can start a lazy consensus so that we can get this workload identity thing into CAMC. That would be great. Thoughts?
Cool. I think that absent any thoughts, all those things sound great. Go ahead, Cecile.
Yeah, I think I had LGTM the proposal, and then Anish added a bunch of comments, which I think you've now addressed, but it'd be good to get Anish to do like a re-review since you addressed his comments, just to make sure that he's good from that point of view, if we can get him to take a look. But otherwise, sounds good to me.
Sure. I'll tag Anish on the thread and I'll request a review from him. And then, maybe once he gives us the LGTM, we can start a lazy consensus. Thank you.
Do we want to be slightly more specific than that? So when Anish LGTM lazy consensus begins, and what is lazy consensus? 1 week? 5 business days?
Yeah, 5 business days looks good to me.
Does anyone have any further thoughts on that? Right there. Cecile?
I think we can make it even more aggressive. Like, it's been open for a while, so if people haven't added comments now, like, I don't know that they're going to add comments in the 5 business days. So Anish is not around this week, so he'll be back next week. So I would say if you want to add any comments to the proposal, please do so before Monday. If on Monday there hasn't been any comments and Anish LGTMs it, I will approve it if there are no objections.
Yeah, I prefer that idea. So essentially, let's skip lazy consensus based on the amount of time this proposal has been open and available for folks to comment on. And let's just call it under the sort of final stages of review. And Anish is obviously a critical reviewer, so if Anish is LGTM, then we'll merge it. I like that. Okay, so I'm going to replace this sentence then. Actually, I think that says everything. Cool. Thank you so much, Ashtosh.
Thanks.
Okay, John, thanks for rewording. And yeah, let's talk about this. Can I give you the floor?
Yeah, so when I've been going through the PR queue, especially to pick up new PRs to review, usually what I look at is, so I look at the PR triage board in the CabZ repo, and I look at the ones that are needs review, or sometimes I'll peek into the no status ones to see if there are any that look like they are ready for review. And I will look to see if I see nobody's assigned to that PR, that's kind of my first indication that no one's been looking at the PR. But then sometimes I'll click into that PR and then see that there's like 30 comments already. So It just makes it a little tricky to know, like, should I jump into this PR because I don't want to like pile on with a lot of extra comments where a PR already has a ton of comments, where there might be another PR that might be better to look at the moment that has fewer comments. So I guess one thing that I've been trying to do is, as soon as I see a PR that I would like to review, I assign myself ahead of time rather than relying on like an LGTM to assign me to the PR kind of after I've already done a review. Just to help me keep track of the PRs that I'm looking at the time, and B, to try to communicate that, especially to the PR author, that I intend to see this PR to the end. And so I guess I would, yeah, I guess that's kind of my intent behind assigning myself to a PR. So I don't know if that's a practice that would be good to kind of standardize, or if there are other ways to help with that. Yeah, go ahead, Nawaz.
Um, just wanted to share my approach, the way I look at reviewing PR. But I try to get into any and every PR without even me being assigned over there or not, just because I get to understand the PR even though I'm not reviewing it. But if I find anything I want to share my thoughts upon, I do go ahead and share it. But yeah, I mean, listening to your point, I feel like assigning it to yourself will let the PR author know that, hey, there's someone taking a look. Uh, but I but there's also a catch to it, like do I not review a PR if I'm not assigned to it? Like, how do we solve that then?
Yeah, I have thoughts on that if no one else does at the moment. So I guess I would not want to discourage anyone from looking at a PR that already has 2 assignees on it already. I think it's more than fine if we have 5 assignees on a PR, especially if it's something big like a proposal, where all of those assignees do intend to see that review all the way to the end. And I think drive-by, well, not necessarily drive-by, but like smaller reviews where if you just want to take one pass and ask a few questions, I think those are totally welcome on any PR anytime. I think in that case, it might be best not to assign yourself or LGTM in that case. At least I think that's what I would do. Kind of, that'd be my tendency, I think. Does anybody else have any other thoughts? Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, thanks for bringing this up. So I'm going to speak for myself. I actually almost never assign myself a PR for review. Not because I don't review PRs to the end, but because I don't know why, the answer to that. And I guess it doesn't, for whatever particular personal reasons, it doesn't help me to know what PRs I'm reviewing. But if other folks are like me and are not using that feature, and it makes it harder for other folks to know what PRs I'm reviewing, then I think maybe we could benefit by standardizing to that. I think, now as I'm thinking about it, for me, it's probably because I don't always know ahead of time which PRs I'm going to be reviewing to the end. And I probably actively don't want to discourage other folks from reviewing the PRs, which I think in some projects assigning can have the outcome of sort of, if someone's like, okay, I'm going to go review some PRs, they go through and triage. I'm not going to review that one because that one's already assigned. So I don't want, so that's the sort of tension I think that probably is happening, but although it's not super, super purposeful, but I will probably make the exception if I feel super confident that like, this is mine, no one else has to worry about this, I'll do this. So then I'll assign it. But that's kind of rare, I think, in practice. But yeah, I'm totally open to changing that if that's harmful to others, so to speak. Anyone else have any thoughts? I kind of, if you don't have any thoughts, that sort of means to me at least that maybe you don't think this is a big problem and the status quo is fine. So that's a controversial way of nudging people to sharing their thoughts. No thoughts means status quo is fine. Go. Oh, there we go. Go, Cecile.
I guess my only thought is I like the keeping the flexibility of, you know, you can have someone who's the primary reviewer and who's going to make sure to coordinate other reviews and LGTM the PR at the end. But like anyone else who isn't the primary reviewer is still welcome to add comments and do drive-by reviews. I think that's a fine way of doing it. But I don't think it's a bad idea to have explicit primary or multiple primary reviewers. I just wouldn't want this to get us into a situation though where we're like relying on a single person and the PR can't merge unless that person is available and around to LGTM the PR, because you know things happen, people have different priorities, they go on vacation. Like we don't want to attach the PR merging necessarily to a single person. This is my only concern, I guess.
Go ahead, Ashtosh.
I was just thinking loud, does what Nawaz proposed sometime back, like somebody who is a bug trizer, kind of looks into issues and PRs, and then, if it's a milestone, they can reach out on Slack or something, then, hey, this PR needs review and something like that. I saw me getting pinged on Kubernetes last Kubernetes for a couple of PRs that, releases near and stuff like that. Will that help?
Well, I'm interpreting John's sort of fundamental problem statement as I don't know how to decide which PR is the most important to review when I go into the queue to look for a PR to review. So I don't think that helps address that particular problem. But I think that's a totally beneficial thing, and you should do that. Thank you so much.
Makes sense.
And I saw John nodding because that was me. Those are my words. So if those words are wrong, John, you would interrupt me and say, no, what are you talking about? Okay, cool. David T.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think the primary reviewer thing is important. And I totally think that, there can be other people. And I understand Cecile's concern of you don't want to be dependent on one person. But that said, if nobody is the primary, then it also gets back to kind of John's original point here, which is that it's confusing of who's driving it, because I'm like, I see one or two people have reviewed it, and it's like who's everybody's potentially pointing fingers at the other person, right? Like so I feel like having someone assigned is important, and if that person is out or not responsive, then I think is the case where someone else could take over or reassign the PR to a different primary reviewer. That's what I have.
Go ahead, Noel.
I have probably a different take towards this. The reason why I was like, oh, I'll just take a look at the PR irrespective of it being assigned was because once I LGTM it, it gets assigned to the person who has LGTM'd it, right? So, I mean, I definitely see the point of having a primary reviewer, but then I feel like it could burden the person. Like, for instance, if someone has to take a sick leave or just have to go out, they would have to ensure that the PRs assigned to them are either unassigned or communicated to the people that, hey, I can't take a look at the PR now. Or, I mean, something of that sort, just overburden it. But I see the point that the PR author would gain more confidence that, hey, yeah, there's someone definitely willing to take this to the end. I don't know. I'm a little divided. It was just sharing the thought.
Thank you, Noel. And anyone, as you're probably noticing, because I'm screen sharing this, I am sort of liberally putting into my own words what I'm interpreting you're saying. So feel free to just overwrite that if I'm interpreting it wrong. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think I was going to say what David just said in the chat, where like just because we have someone being a primary reviewer, we're not going to like implement any mechanics on top of that where like that person needs to LGTM a PR. It's more just like a signal of intent rather than any sort of hard requirement, I think, where just because a PR is assigned to somebody, that's not going to like hard block the PR from not merging until that LGTM goes through. Go ahead, Cecile.
Yeah, I guess question for like looking at this the other way, what if I'm a PR author and no one's taking a look at my PR? I'm not getting any reviews on it. How do I get someone if it's all a self-assigned mechanism and no one's self-assigning to my PR? Like what I've done in the past is tag people that I think are potential good reviewers for this because they either have touched this code area before or they have some interest in doing more reviews or something like that.
John, I think you're going to answer that question, so you can go.
Yeah, so I guess I would say that that's also a totally valid way of doing things. So yeah, I think there's room for us to have like both in place where like reviewers can assign themselves to PRs and authors can assign reviewers to their PRs. I don't know how messy it would be if we don't have some sort of like order of precedence where like one method is preferable over the other. But I guess I would like a solution where both methods are acceptable. I think that's possible. Go ahead, Jack.
Cool. So we should time box this. We can do a little bit of milestone review. This is great. My observation is that the lowest hanging fruit is that the lowest hanging fruit to solve the problem, what should I review next, would be if we could identify PRs that have not been reviewed at all. And perhaps a way to improve that process for someone who's hopping onto the PR queue and looking for that information, like give me a PR that's needs reviews essentially, is if we can start customarily self-assigning PRs as soon as we start reviewing it. So I don't do that. I kind of as Nawaz said, I would tend to just like super eagerly review any PR if I have 5 minutes. Or even if I'm doing like a full review, I'll just review it. And I think that the idea there is that someone who hops into that PR would be able to pretty quickly at a glance see, oh, Jack's started a review on that PR because you can see the thread comments and all that kind of thing. However, that doesn't matriculate to that doesn't like help you solve the problem of like, okay, I'm looking at 25 PRs, which ones don't have thread comments on them? I don't think, am I right about that? Is that how the GitHub UI works? So if we were to self-assign just as a way of optimizing the issue queue, like let's see if we can find an example.
Hey,
Cecile,
Jack, can I
yeah,
interject? They actually added a feature I just saw. Like it wasn't there last week, but right next to milestones, see how it says reviews? No, at the top banner. Go up. Yeah, right there. You can filter if you click on it by. That's pretty cool. I have not seen that before. I don't know how it works yet. Haven't tried it, but it seems promising.
Okay, let's test this out. No reviews, but it says 4 comments.
Yeah, this one I literally just put a comment on there, so I don't know if that didn't work.
So I think that's also a stat that this is, I agree, this is cool. I would imagine that did you do this during the meeting, Matt? You naughty engineer. I would imagine that depends on this. So I'm going to say something like, you are good at doing work while being totally present in a meeting at the same time. Okay, and so this should turn that, it should get it out of that filter. So if I say no reviews, we should not see that. Okay, that didn't work. So I'm not exactly sure how that can help. I guess this is for like,
I think it should have excluded it. It's possible that the feature is not working as it should.
half-baked. Well, I actually think this is super useful here. Although it's shocking that there's nothing with 0 in it. Maybe it's not shocking.
That's because you have code conf commenting on every PR, so you have some comments that happen
I
even if
see,
no
okay.
one has reviewed yet.
Go ahead, Ashtosh. We should probably time block.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just put one small suggestion that came up. So one of the projects prior, we used some labels known as review required. Just so, you know, we could also think about that if that works. So having a label that puts, you can see on the PR, like you can see release notes site/success. There's some label known as review required or needs review, something like that. I don't know.
Ooh, we are failing
yeah.
a time box. Things are getting hot and heavy. Go ahead, Dane.
Yeah.
I think the reason it didn't filter out is a comment is not a review. There's the review button when you're looking at the files. But there's potentially also maybe a cache, but yeah, the review changes button.
Right. So there was basically no review state, which is like, good job, keep making progress. It's more like, this looks great, or I have, you must change this PR before. It's like either positive or negative. It's not like affirming or just simply a question. That doesn't count as part of the review. That makes sense. Go ahead, Cecile.
I don't think that's true. I think that's still a bug because if I click reviewed by me, then it shows that PR. So it is counting my comments as a review. So I think it's just not working as expected. But because a comment is a review, like, but anyways, that's not what I was gonna say. I was gonna say, I think now that we're looking at this is making me think really the good solution for this would be anything that doesn't require people to change their own workflow. I think trying to get everyone to abide by some rule of I have to assign myself or I have to do this a certain way gets very difficult in a community project where people have, you know, work on different projects. I think it will be really hard to coordinate. People will forget to assign themselves and then it will, you know, chaos will ensue. So I think the best way for us to fix this is to, yeah, like things like this GitHub feature that can allow people to have tools to find PRs to reviews without necessarily changing existing workflows, but using what data is already available. Yeah, sorry for throwing this hot take at the last minute as Jack is trying to time box us away from this.
It's okay. Yeah. John, go ahead.
I have one more take. So to kind of augment what Cecile said, I wonder if another kind of good immediate first step is to maybe over communicate in PRs and just like be amenable to comments saying like, hey, are you looking for another review on this PR, or comment on your own PR saying, hey, I'm looking for reviews on this PR, or just throw things in Slack or that sort of thing. I wonder if that might be accommodating for most people's workflows at the expense of perhaps a little more noise.
Yeah, that works for me. I mean, what works for me, honestly, is the flexibility of all this so that everybody can kind of bring their own style, so to speak. I personally appreciate that this project allows me to decide what PR to review next, whether it's that looks interesting or, you know, as opposed to simply like some automated CI process, you know, whether it's like a super structured sprint planning where like a PM just assigns you, go work on this or go review this. I appreciate that's not the only informing factor, but I also can appreciate that there are other folks that feel like how do I know that I'm reviewing the most important thing? Go ahead, David T.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, just to kind of echo with Cecile's point, I mean, that's why part of the reason why we have the PR triage backlog, I mean, it certainly can be improved, I think, with maybe what we want to decide in terms of reviewer logistics, but yeah, that's the hope, because I think just the biggest thing is not wasting time, like deciding to review something or not, or knowing what I can review, right? That's what we want to avoid. Less the
Yeah.
you need to review this.
Well,
Auto assign and you will do it.
100% wasting time is bad. I think my read of John's concern is that PRs are not being reviewed that should be, and so they're being unnecessarily delayed. But Matt, you have a comment.
Just to follow on what John said most recently, I think it would be good if we could kind of default to over communicating, or at least I don't see much of a downside to that. Because usually what I'm doing when I blender into PR is scroll down and then try and infer what the current status is. And if we're kind of over communicating, you know, often asking the question, hey, where's this PR at? Do you need another review and all that? Then usually it's going to be, and maybe nobody follows up, which is often the case. But at least the last comment in the PR kind of summarizes where we're at. So just generally, I think it's a really good idea to over communicate. I don't tend to do so, but I don't think there's a downside to it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, the only downside is it doesn't scale, so it doesn't help you to decide from 25 PRs which one can I be the most helpful. And that I think a lot of us have that inclination, like thinking like I can do certain things really well. How can I do those here? I'm thinking like, I don't know, there's no way I know how I can be the most helpful in the next 30 minutes without spending 30 minutes doing the process and actually not being helpful, like David T said. Okay, I'm calling it. We're gonna do 6 minutes of milestone review. If we can only do 6 minutes of milestone review, let's go to the milestone. That's my intuition, at least, and see if we can find any PRs that are, or any milestone tagged units of GitHub thing that shouldn't be here. That's a good ratio. That's good. Great ratio. 52 closed, 23 open. Awesome. I don't think we have enough time for me to go down. So I will, we can do this lightning round. Don't even have to raise hand. Go ahead and hop in if you have something to say about any of these items. This is a big one. I'm gonna hop in myself. Noaz, I see your avatar there. Are you actively reviewing this?
Sorry, the meeting chat took it over. Is it sorry, add support?
Sorry, the confidential. Sorry, you can't follow my mouse. Yeah, this one.
Yeah, I have LGTM'd it. I think the last comment was waiting on for Matt, I guess, or Cecile. Maybe
Okay, cool. Well, that seems that it's probably going to land in the next few dev weeks. That's great. Basically, I saw this XXL and I was thinking now is the time when maybe an XXL will get kicked out of the milestone if it's not near the end, but it sounds like it is near the end, so that's great. Are these, Matt, appropriate 110 tagged things?
Yes.
Great.
Yes.
I think these are fine. I know this is sort of like a milestone spanning thing, but I know that work's happening there, John. Is this an appropriate thing for this milestone, Matt?
No, probably not at this point. We have made 0 progress, and we're just going to have to. So it's probably not happening for this one.
So I'm going to go back to previous conversation. Next, we'll answer that question at the beginning of the 111 milestone. Anything else interesting here, especially something that should be kicked off? If not, we could go to the PR queue. Go ahead.
I think strictly speaking, 3409, getting to the point where we're not using, where we fully integrated is not going to happen. So I'm hoping some of the subtasks will land, but I don't know if we're gonna get it all done. That seems unrealistic. So let's put that in the next milestone.
Got it. Oh, I thought you meant like it's not gonna happen ever, but you just mean before
Oh, it's definitely
July
gonna happen. I just,
11th.
there's not enough time to get it all done, probably.
Cool. Love it. Okay, this one's at the bottom, even though it's. We're working on it, Dane, working on it. Let's see here. Is this, Dane, is this related to Azure CNI?
It's not.
Dane, do you want to? It's not. Is there any progress happening?
Yes, sorry, I was out of the office for like a week. I just got back, so there were I got a review.
All good.
I need to make a few small changes to it, and then I think it's probably good to merge after those changes. So, I'll get to it in the next few days.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you so much. And this is also a super interesting one. How is this one? Is this moving along, Cecile, Dane?
This is mine. It's blocked at the moment, but I'm working with internal teams to get unblocked. So hoping to move it along. It's a
Understood.
slow process.
Thank you for your bravery. Okay, let's just get 3 minutes of time back because nothing consequential ever happened with 2 minutes to spare. This was a fun one.
Thank you, Jack.
Thanks for hosting, Jack.
Yep.
Thanks, Jack.
Good discussion.
Go fight, win.